diamonds. This is where you can find the diamonds. And so Al-Hafed sold the farm, and he went searching for these diamonds. And he searched and searched. A black stone with a shiny speck in it. And not thinking much of it, he takes it and he goes back home, puts it on the counter. And a few days later, the priest comes by again to visit this new farmer. And he sees the stone on the counter. And he right away says, Has Al-Hafed returned? Has he found the diamonds? And this farmer says, no, it's just the stone I found in the creek. And so the priest says, no, it is a diamond. And so they rush back to the creek and they find many other stones like this. And this farm became one of the largest diamond mines in the world. So what can we learn from this story? Al-Hafed, he was looking around, right? He didn't find what was right in front of him that would make him the thing that he was searching so much for, and he had it right in front of his nose, right? I think one lie that we sometimes tell ourselves is that more is better. This goes all the way back to Adam and Eve. It was one of the first things that they believed. God created Adam, and then he created Eve, and then Adam said when he saw her, whoa, man. And then that's how she got her name, I think. But God created them with enough, right? He created them with enough to have a perfect life, with perfect communion with him. But God also put a snake in that garden, and that snake was able to convince them that no, they actually didn't have quite enough. They needed a little bit more yet. And if they did this thing that God had told them not to do, then they would be full and they would have everything they wanted. And so we all know the story, right? They ate the fruit, and then they played the blaming game, as Alois called it a few Sundays ago. I would encourage you to listen to that message. It was good. And so Adam and Eve were chasing more since the beginning. They had everything right in front of them to live a perfect life, and there was no sin in the world, so they could have. And it's easy for us to look at them too and say, they were just terrible. But we also have everything in front of us to live a life full of purpose. Not only that, we have Jesus who enables us to live a life of purpose and free of guilt and shame if we choose to follow him. We can be very, I think, similar to Adam and Eve and to Al-Hafed at times. We want more money, more shoes, more muscles, more hair, some of us. But more is not always better. Actually, sometimes less is better. Sometimes our opportunity to accomplish our dreams is right in front of us, and we're just chasing the next thing. One thing Anna and we've done lately, and it's been helpful, is anything that we have not used in a year, we seriously consider either selling it or getting rid of it. It just helps our life become less cluttered. We have a problem of believing we don't have enough. And I think a prayer that we can pray, a good prayer to pray, is, God, give me less of what does not matter and give me more of what does matter. When somehow, I think when we're like, if we'd all have 1 month left to live, we would all become very aware of what our priorities are. What are our priorities in life? What is our first priority? Someone say something. God, right? It's in the title. So God is our first priority. Let's say these chairs are the priorities in our life. So God goes here first, and our family is supposed to be second, right? Our family and the relationships around us, first being our wife, then our kids, and then I can't. So our relationships is second, and then we have to make our money and provide, right? So there's work, maybe third. And then we also want to be healthy, we want to live a good life and have good habits. Maybe that's fourth. And Then if we have time, well, maybe there's some hobbies. But is this always what all of our lives look like in this order? I think sometimes it can get messed up, right? Maybe we really want to get ahead in life, and so we put work up here in priority number one. And we do love our family, so they'll stay there in second place. But man, there's that video game that just came out. It is fun, and I really like that. So I spend some time on hobbies, and I still try to make it to the gym and be healthy. And so we'll put that there, and then we'll just maybe leave this aside for a little bit. And this is maybe what our life can look like sometimes. But priority number one is God. And so in Hebrews 12, 1-2, I'll read this verse. It says, "Therefore, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us also lay aside every weight that slows us, every weight." And in another version it says, "everything that slows us down. And sin which clings so closely, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us, looking to Jesus, the author, or the founder and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising shame, and is seated at the right hand of the throne of God." So we're here to fulfill a mission, and that mission is to fulfill the Great Commission, right? And so, and it's actually part of the mission statement of our church. Does anybody know our mission statement? You guys know it? Yeah, do you want to come say it? Here, you guys can both say it. I don't have rewards for you like Alois did the other day, though. Sorry.
Lighthouse Mission Church exists to glorify God by making disciples of Jesus Christ.
There you go. Very good.
Lighthouse Mission Church exists to glorify God by making disciples of Jesus Christ.
Yeah, very good. Give him a hand. So this is our mission here as a church, right? And so this verse in Hebrews, it says it starts by laying aside every weight that slows us down. And this could be many things, right? And maybe you can even think of something right now. But it could be maybe friends you'd be better off without. Could be social media. Could be complacency, laziness, pride. Everybody knows of something that is slowing you down. And it's not worth hanging on to these things. I recently had to delete all the social media from my phone again. Why is this? Because I saw how it was slowing me down, and it was distracting me from looking into the eyes of Jesus and getting my priorities straight. Nothing, no matter what, is worth keeping if it's keeping your eyes from Jesus. And so it says, this verse said, look to Jesus and do so with endurance. It said, run with endurance. It's going to take endurance. As you run with your eyes fixed on him, there will be distractions around us. But we need to keep our eyes on him in order to run well. It's so easy to get distracted, but how do we endure? I think part of the answer is in Psalms 34, verse 8. I'll just read that verse. It says, "Oh, taste and see that the Lord is good. Blessed is the man who takes refuge in him." So when we taste and see that he is better than anything else, when we experience him, and the more we obey him, the more we get to know him, the more we grow in our relationship with him, the more you will see that how a life tastes and how sweet a life tastes being close to him and the blessings that are around us. What are some blessings that a life of devotion will bring to you? Let's take maybe relationships for an example. We care a lot about our relationships, right? There's nothing better than to have friends and family that are devoted to each other and love the Lord, right? And this is a big blessing. I have probably had one of the best parents in the world. Growing up, you could almost say they almost forced me to be a believer in Jesus. And some may think, oh, that can't be good. But I'm just speaking from my experience, it has been very good, because today I can say every single one of my siblings, including in-laws, is devoted to Jesus. They made me go to a Christian school. They made us have family devotions. They made us read our Bible, be involved in church. They rammed it down our throat. And far more importantly, they lived by example, which is the biggest part, right? But Proverbs 22:6, it says, train a child up in the way he should go, and even when he's old, he will not depart from it. A lot of my friends, I could see that their parents did not have the same philosophy. They maybe thought they needed to find Jesus for themselves in order that the relationship would be authentic. And today, there's many that are far from the Lord because the pull of the world is very strong, and the path is wide, and many will find it, right? And so training your child in his ways is because he's important to you, right? And it comes with living and training, and you will have blessings in your relationships. Priority number 1 is Jesus. When you taste and see his goodness, blessings will overflow. And it doesn't mean that it will be easy, but that's why we have to run with endurance. And so it's easy to say God is our first priority, but then in actuality, and when we live, put him second in our life. And this actually, it has a name. And we can find it in Colossians 3:5. It says, put to death, therefore, what is earthly in you: sexual immorality, impurity, passion, evil desires, and covetousness, which is idolatry. So if you're a little bit like me, you maybe think idolatry is maybe people bowing down to a golden statue. But that's not what this verse is saying, right? It's saying even coveting is idolatry. I want more and more and more of what other people have. Idolatry is any time anything takes the place of God in our life. A lot of times we can even claim that God is priority, but he often gets left out. And God is a jealous God, right? He wants everything about us. In Exodus 34, verse 14, it says, for you shall worship no other God, for the Lord, whose name is jealous, is a jealous God. How many of us have thought, how come God is allowed to be jealous, but I'm not? Maybe it's just my mind, but God is not jealous because he's insecure like us or because he even needs us. He doesn't need us, right? He's all-sufficient. But he's jealous because he loves us. And he wants to have a relationship with us, and for us to put him first and not second. So how can we know if we are putting God first? There's a few places we can check, and I have 3 of them here. There may be more. But my first one here is are we putting God first with our money? One good sign of where our priorities are is often when we look at our bank statement. Is giving a priority in my life? I think when it comes to money, we're all good at something. How many people are good at spending money? And if your spouse is good, then tell them to raise their hand. How many of us are good at finding bargains? Maybe you're on Marketplace a lot. Man, you always find good deals. How many people are good at saving money? And by saving money, I don't mean finding a good bargain and saving money that way. That's kind of what my mom would say is saving money. But saving money, like actually not buying stuff. The Bible doesn't say we need to be good at any of those things. But it does say we need to be good at giving. And I'll read another verse here. It says, it's in 2 Corinthians 8, 6-7. It says, so we have urged Titus, who encouraged your giving in the first place, to return to you and encourage you to finish this ministry of giving. Since you excel in so many ways in your faith and in your gifted speakers, your knowledge, your enthusiasm, and your love from us, I want you to excel also in the gracious act of giving. So Paul is saying here, you guys are doing well in a lot of areas. You're enthusiastic about God, you speak well, but you started something and you did not finish it. How many of us have thought about giving, but that's where it ended? This has been me more times than I would like to admit. But Paul is saying, Titus encouraged you to do this, and now actually do it. So how do we excel in this gift? I think it sometimes takes trust. Sometimes it takes going against our instinct to hold on to what we have. And sometimes it will take not making excuses, but being generous. It honors God. And if you give cheerfully, not under obligation, but willfully and willingly, you will experience freedom. And why is this? I think it's because you're saying, God, I do enjoy this stuff, but I enjoy you more than I enjoy money. And so are we putting God first with money? And then my second one is, are we putting God first with our time? When I was 17, I worked for a lawn mowing company in Winkler, Manitoba. And my boss said something to me that I will never forget. We were filling up our lawnmowers with diesel, and I made a mistake. I think I might have dripped some diesel onto the trailer. And he pulled me aside and he says to me, and I will never forget it, he says, Regan, I like that you like to go, but sometimes you have to stop and think. And I feel like God says the same thing to us sometimes too. Something one of my mentors told me this week is, slowing down is a spiritual discipline. We all have meetings, we all have to-do lists, we have our kids are involved in so many sports, school programs, and we have appointments, church events, the list goes on. But what would it look like to really enjoy God, as the Psalm said before? To taste and see that He is good, to slow down and enjoy moments. I think we can when we enjoy, we can just worship Him all the more, right, for what we see. And the other thing is, don't make quick decisions without asking Him. There's an example of this in 1 Samuel 13, 1-15. We read about Saul, and I won't read the passage, but I'll just kind of summarize. Saul was Israel's first king, and they were facing a battle with the Philistines. And the battle looked a little bit grim. It was not very hopeful. And so Samuel said, Saul, you got to wait for me 7 days. I'll be there, and we're going to seek the Lord's favor. And so Saul's waiting there for Samuel. Samuel's getting a bit late, and his army's starting to get scared and hiding in caves. And then Saul takes matters into his own hands. I'm just going to do this myself. And so he offers a sacrifice, and just when he's done, Samuel arrives. So what was Saul's, and this started the downfall of his kingdom. And so what was Saul's weakness? He cared more about winning the battle than being obedient to God. And because he was unable to wait on God, it started his downfall. In every decision we make, no matter how hard-pressed for time we need to stop and ask God. And I've also struggled in this area. When I'm in a rush, I want to go, right? There's no time for anything else. But how would our lives be different if we would always be looking to God before we did something? We'd probably make a lot less mistakes. One habit I've started, and I think this starts early in the morning, is I try to wake up 30 minutes earlier in the morning to have my own time with God. Ever since me and Anna got married, me and Anna have devotions in the morning together, but I've been convicted lately to do just wake up a bit earlier and do myself, and it has really shaped my day. And I think if we spend our first moments with God, our first time in the day with Him, it shapes our day. It lets our heart know where our priorities stand. So am I honoring God with my time? And then my last one here is, are we honoring God with our efforts? I want to read Colossians 3, verse 2. It says, set your mind on things that are above, not on things that are on earth. And so how do I know if my mind is set on things that are above and not on the earth? I think we can ask, where am I putting my effort? Last Sunday we did skeet shooting. It was a lot of fun. And I could tell a lot of you put a lot of effort into your shot. You were very skilled. And I could tell I needed to put more effort into that. But we put effort into things that we care about. I think many of us could say we have our thing. But is my thing a distraction? Sometimes our thing can be stuff that is wrong. Maybe we're dealing with stress or loneliness or depression, and we have this thing that lets us forget about it or kind of numbs it. Maybe it's endless scrolling or gaming or drinking or overeating. Maybe sometimes pornography. And we think these things are the problem. And they are a problem, but they are not the problem. The problem is somewhere in our life, like we were talking about before, is we put God second place. Maybe your thing is not anything necessarily bad. Maybe you really like golf, and it takes you away a lot, or it's your job and you've got to put table on. It's not a bad thing, right? You've got to put food on the table somehow, but you spend 80 hours a week at work. Or maybe your kids are your thing, and you make sure they get to be involved in every single sport that exists on planet Earth. And it's not a bad thing, right? But maybe it just takes you away from church a little more than you'd like to be. Even good things can become a place instead of God. And so, how would my life look like if all my efforts, if my strongest efforts were on building a relationship with my Father? Just to close it off, I think a prayer that we need to pray is God, give me less of what does not matter and give me more of what does matter. I think it will change our lives. I think it will help us declutter things that are not necessary. Following Jesus, it will mean some hardship, right? It requires endurance, but he invites us to taste and see that this endurance will bring a good taste. It will bring blessing and his goodness. And so I'll just invite you to stand and we'll pray to close. God, thank you for this day. Thank you for your love for us. God, I just pray that we would be able to put you first wherever we are, Lord, and wherever we are in life, that we would be able to let go of anything that is clinging to us and focus on you, God. We love you. Help us in our week to be powerful lights for you and to fulfill the mission that you have called us to. We love you, Lord. Amen.